I'm the Lord's servant.
I'm asking now is to give truth a chance. All I've ever told anybody is the truth. Now, just because you didn't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And I'm asking people to give truth a chance.
All around, you hear the lies being told from the top. Every time you turn around, it just don't seem to stop. When you're ready to move far beyond that same old dance, all you gotta do is listen, yeah, and give truth a chance. When you're lying deep within in a bed full of lies, and your pillow's soaking wet with the tears you have cried. If you're ready to unlock the chains and take a stand, you just open up your willing heart and give truth a chance. Oh, give truth a chance to set you free and become the person the Lord has called you to be. You've been walking for far too long, deeper in sin. Now it's time to open up and let the truth in. If you're ready to wake up from Satan's deep spell and trance, all you gotta do is let go and give truth a chance. Oh, give truth a chance to set you free and become the person the Lord has called you to be. All around, you hear the lies being told from the top. Every time you turn around, it just don't seem to stop. When you're ready to move far beyond that same old dance, all you gotta do is listen, yeah, and give truth a chance.
Give truth a chance.
Everybody,
give truth a chance.
come on and sing it.
Give truth a chance. Give truth a chance.
On yesterday, the New York Post, which is a, if you will, conservative Republican-type newspaper that's owned by news mogul Rupert Murdoch, put on its headline on yesterday, this week rather, here, the last week of the year, told Trump to stop the insanity of trying to overturn the election. The New York Post, Rupert Murdoch, who also owns Fox News, is saying to Trump, the election was not stolen. Stop the insanity. And that's pretty meaningful, I think, for the New York Post to say that. But I want you to look carefully at how many of you left me when I said, not just yesterday or this week, when I said Trump was insane. I said it 5 years ago. Moreover, I said what God said to me, that Donald Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. He is the Judas of the tribulation, that he is a pathological degenerate, that he is a mad coochie grabber, that he is a sick man, that he is a con man, that he is a liar. And as a result of that, you got angry with me and you left. You called me all kinds of names, many of you, some of you just walked away. But I'm not the only one. Now even Vladimir Putin has said to Trump, it's over with. Vladimir Putin called Joe Biden a few days ago and congratulated him on being the president-elect of the United States of America. That means that Vladimir Putin, who has the potential to know, who has the ability to know if the election was rigged, if Vladimir Putin thought that the election had been rigged by Joe Biden, that the election had been stolen by Joe Biden, let me tell you, the intelligence forces of Moscow would know it. If Joe Biden did not win the election fair and square, Vladimir Putin would be the first person to know it. And under no circumstances would he drop Trump and congratulate Biden if the election was stolen. Vladimir Putin has said to Biden, "You are the president." The New York Post has said, "Trump, stop the insanity." Why am I saying that? I'm saying because there may be some of you who also realize I said what Vladimir Putin, what Rupert Murdoch, and what others are saying, I said 5 years ago. And as a result of my having said that, you left the ministry. We lost 600 members in a matter of 6 months who all went to follow Trump. Now, I want to say this as well, that God provided me the opportunity. You will remember that at one point I endorsed Trump. At another point, I put out on our announcement board, Harlem for Trump. At another point, I began to negotiate with the Apollo Theater here on 125th Street, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, to hold a rally, for Trump to hold a rally back in 2015 here at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. You'll remember I did that. You remember that Sabbath LaFleur performed the song, "Get on the Trump Train." It became a mega hit at the Trump campaigns, "Get on the Trump Train." You don't hear it now because Sabbath and I, we withdrew our support of Trump 30 days after we gave it and had started our planning. But my path did cross with Tribulation Trump. But when I discovered that he is a con man, that he is a pathological one, that he is incurable, that he is incapable, the man needs to be in an insane asylum. His niece, Mary Trump, is right. He is the most dangerous man in the world right now. Now he puts on a nice smile. He makes that orange hair and that red tie. It is so photogenic. It is so ready for camera. It is so ready as an actor to play a part. That orange hair, especially if you're WASP, if that orange hair, that red tie, if you're an American, if you're an apple pie American with that red tie, that white shirt, and that forever blue suit, it is so photogenic. It's a con game. It is a hustle. It is a con game that he constantly runs on you, and that's his outfit. That's his uniform. That's not just a suit he put on. That's a uniform of the con game. It's a pimp suit. That orange hair, that red tie, that blue suit, that white shirt is a pimp suit. He's a con man. Now, you say, well, Pastor, if you're asking me to come back to the fold and you're still reeling the way you are, well, I'm simply speaking the truth. That I pray that by now you have recognized it to be the truth, that Trump is a con man. Not just that, but Jesus has said, now listen to me very carefully, and I will not lie to you. I will not lie to you. As I hug this Bible, Jesus said to me one-on-one that Donald John Trump has been placed in the earth to trigger the tribulation, to start race wars, to start national conflict. God, his name is Jesus, said to me one-on-one that Trump has been put in the earth to bring kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation, to bring destruction, to bring poverty, to bring disease. And let me say to you that of the 337,000 people that have died, that's at least what Johns Hopkins University has said about the number of Americans that have died as a result of coronavirus. I want to tell you that Donald John Trump is the cause. That orange hair, you see that man right there without sympathy, heartlessly. If that man was a man of integrity, a man of humility of any sort, 300,000 people would have not lost. This man right now is the cause of over 300,000 people that have died over the last 9 months from coronavirus. That man, you see, with the orange hair, with the pimp uniform. That red tie ain't nothing but a pimp uniform. That white shirt is a pimp uniform. That blue suit is a pimp uniform. But he has killed by his recklessness, by his handling of coronavirus, by his denying it, by saying it's a hoax, by he and Alex Jones saying it's a hoax, and all of the people of the the sycophants that followed him that would not have spread the coronavirus from one end of America to another. Now, you say, well, Pastor, that's not very much of an appeal to get the lost sheep. I understand what the gospel writer of Luke says, to leave the 99 and go for the one sheep that's lost, that gone astray. And you say you lost 600 members? Yes, we did. Put a big dent in our membership. 600 people walked away from me to follow Trump. 600 people. And I want to appeal to them. And I'm appealing to them per chance that they're ready to admit that I was not wrong, that I was right. Listen, at the time I was saying that Trump was a con man, Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, was saying it. Ted Cruz was saying it. Jeb Bush was saying it. Lindsey Graham was saying it, that he's a con man, that he's a pathological liar. All of these high-ranking Republican senators were saying. Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan left politics altogether. On the day before the election, Paul Ryan would not stand with the con man, the pathological liar. Paul Ryan, the man who was third in line to the presidency, would not stand in line on the day before the election with con man pimp Trump. And when Trump became the president, rather than bowing down and eating his words, as did Marco Rubio, as did Ted Cruz, as did Chris Christie, as did Lindsey Graham, Paul Ryan just quit politics altogether. He left. This man was promising. He ran as a vice presidential mate with Mitt Romney. And if there was to be a Republican president, it was Paul Ryan. But Paul Ryan realized that Donald Trump is a liar, a con man par excellence, and he left politics altogether. He'll come back once you people have realized who Trump is, once you realize what he has done to destroy America, the number of people that have died. Trump is unempathetic. Now, listen to me very, very carefully. He is incapable of having any kind of empathy or sympathy or concern about anybody but himself. In one sense, you can't be angry with him. He needs to be medicated. And he knows how to play the game of the president. He knows how to play the part that he wants to play. He writes his own script. But he has no empathy. All them people driving their trucks and standing there in the cold in those rallies or standing there hour after hour wearing those red hats, Trump don't give a damn about you. He wouldn't invite you to dinner if he was the last place on the planet where people could get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He would not invite one of you rednecks to dinner. He don't care nothing. He just uses you. He pimps you. He plays you. Now, that doesn't make you feel good. But let's go back to it. Rupert Murdoch, that headline that you see on the New York Post, that's a New York newspaper owned by Rupert Murdoch, would not be there if Rupert Murdoch did not say, put it up there. Tell that orange-haired orangutan, tell that con man to stop this insanity. What he's doing, trying to overturn the election. He's had 80 judges over the last 30 days reject his claims that the election was rigged in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Michigan, and in Wisconsin. 80 judges. 80 judges. Now, he's got a bunch of goons. He's got a bunch of idiots out there online coming up out of the Junebug of the toilets of rural America, talking about God said he's going to be the president. They're talking about he's the greatest president. These are nothing more than Junebug dirt daubers, liars who got all kind of phony names talking about they're some sort of a prophet. But even those of you who are listening to that, you knew when I said it that Trump was a con man. But here's what has held this ship together, and I want to see if I can now dismantle it. What has held Trump's ship together has been racism. That's the 6 of the people that left me. Listen, don't think for 1 second they didn't know that Trump was a con man. Don't think for 1 second that they didn't know that Trump was putting on a costume. He wasn't coming out in a suit dressed like people do. That's a costume. That red tie, that white shirt, that blue suit, that's a costume. His hair is not orange. That dyed, stiff, orange hair, that's a costume. They knew that. Every last one of the 600 people that left me to follow Trump, they knew as well as I knew. But let me tell you why they went. They went for what I refer to as modern day racism. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, the election of Barack Hussein Obama, allegedly a black man president of the United States, scared the bejeebies out of them. And it scared them because let's look at it from this point of view. And I want to try to explain this as best I possibly can. And I'm trying to be as delicate as I possibly can. If somehow or another this offends you, or if you misunderstand it, or if I don't do a good job of explaining it, please forgive me. It is done without malice. And all I've said, well, I have said with some emphasis about Trump being a con man and that outfit being a costume. Please forgive me if somehow or another this offends you. And I pray that my asking for forgiveness in advance will cause you to listen to me. Listen, the 600 people that left me, they were not unaware that Trump is a racist. Now, you say, well, someone say, well, what racist thing has he ever said? Let me put it to you this way. Trump, you may say he's not a racist. You may say he's never done or said anything, or I could point to a whole lot of things. Central Park 5 here in New York City, where those 5 young boys are accused of raping that white woman, sent to jail for 10 years. Somebody else confessed that Trump tried to have them executed. And even after they were exonerated, Trump still asked for them to remain in prison after they had been cleared by DNA evidence. I invited Trump to come to the Apollo Theater. Trump had stated years on, in his early days as a, if you will, real estate mogul in New York, that he would never build anything in Harlem. He said he would never build anything here. He said he would never set foot here. I knew on the day that I talked to Michael Cohen and I asked Trump to come to the Apollo Theater, I knew he had said that years earlier, but I thought now as becoming president, the president of all the people, that he was going to drop all of that. Sometimes we say and do things when we're younger that we regret later on. I thought he would say, let me go to Harlem and make amends with the Harlem people. He didn't come. But that does not be racism in your eyes. But let me tell you why, the bona fide reason why Trump is clearly identified as a racist. Because racist people love him. Simple as that. Listen, if you don't think he's a racist, even Trump doesn't think he's a racist, Racist people think he's racist as hell, and they're willing to put their lives on the line. They're willing to strap on AR-15s. They're willing to strap on military garb. They're willing to drive 1,500 miles to his rallies. They're willing to kidnap governors of states. They're willing to kill because they believe in him. These racists that believe in him are willing to go to their death. If they didn't believe he was a racist, they would not die for a person who is not a racist. No racist is going to die for a person who is not a racist. Now, Fred Hampton said many, many years ago, and though you may not be, aware of him, or if you find out who he is, a Black Panther, you may find a mark against me, but I cannot let what Fred Hampton, I thought he was one of the best orators of a 21-year-old I've ever heard in my life. Fred Hampton, they've got the door where the police, FBI killed him in Chicago. Fred Hampton said at the conclusion of one of his speeches there in Hyde Park in Chicago, talked about explanations that don't explain and conclusions that don't conclude. Let me tell you something, I've never heard anything like that before. And when you look at what Trump is, Trump, if he was not a racist people wouldn't be willing to go to bat for him. Racist people wouldn't be willing to lose their careers for him. Racist people wouldn't be able to wouldn't strap on an AR-15 for him. No, he's a racist, whether he thinks he is or not. He's a racist because racist America thinks he is. But can I just say one further thing, and not to back away from what I've just said? I don't think that racism today is the same kind of George Wallace racism that we've had. We've had several periods of racism. We've had antebellum racism. I'm not the most studied person on the planet, but because I've lived a long life and I've had the opportunity to study and get my PhD while I was in prison, I've had the opportunity to read and go through several periods of time where most people have to go to work. Even if you got a college degree, got a master's degree from college, you haven't had as much study time as I have, and your curiosity or your memory might not be as clean and powerful as mine. But there's all kinds of racism. There's the antebellum racism. Well, what do you mean by that? The antebellum racism was a racism that existed between the between the slave and the slave owner. It was a different kind of racism because the slave wasn't running around, with dreadlocks. We call it the antebellum. And then there was, if you will, racism, black people racism, light-skinned black people, black-skinned black people, that kind of racism, and racism where black people wanted to pass to be white. I mean, there have been all kinds of racism. And then, of course, there's Jim Crow racism. There's a fear of what the time of Reconstruction brought to America, that black people were going to rise up now because they got land, they got money. They're voted in as senators or United States senators. And so the Ku Klux Klan was formed to stop that. That was a different kind of racism and used vulgar, violent tactics to do so. But what I'm talking about today is a modern day kind of racism. Most of these people aren't willing to, start put on a sheet now and cover their faces. They pretty much now you can see their faces. It's a different kind of racism. They've taken away the sheets. And I call it modern day racism. And let me try to further understand that there are Japheth people who feel that they have been forgotten. There are Japheth people who feel that the LGBTQ crowd, the Hollywood crowd, the Wall Street crowd, the Washington crowd has forgotten nearly 80 to 90 million white people that are just kind of cast to the side, and they're not mainstream. Their ideas are not powerful. Most people think that Southerners are ignorant because they speak with a drawl. Most of your major institutions, MIT, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, and Duke, and Columbia, Columbia, not Duke, but most of those institutions are in the North. You don't find a lot of major intellectual centers in the South. You don't find them there. Wall Street is in the North, and Hollywood is on the West Coast with Los Angeles, and Broadway here in New York, and then everything in Arkansas and Mississippi and Georgia and Alabama. All those are considered places of ignorant people. And this has been wearing on the white man, the Japheth brother, and I'll call him a brother, for the past 75 years. And then it was a marching of Dr. King. Their way of life, their structure that they had was disrupted. George Wallace was dethroned, and they've just had it. It isn't that they want to put on a sheet, but they just had it as being second-class citizens in their own country. And here's the thing that's going to really get you, and I again pray that you hear me, listen to me, and forgive me if you misunderstand me. I'm asking you now, stomp down, show enough, to forgive me if you misunderstand me. But many of these people of the South who are not a part of the elitists, not a part of the Wall Street, Hollywood, liberal, LGBT crowd, they're not a part of that group. They're not a part of the Broadway, part of the institution of education. They want a pure race of people. Many of them are misogynists, and that is a form of racism if you look at it. But I have to tell you that the Bible promotes misogynism. The Bible promotes that Jews should not marry outside of the Jewish faith. And I'm telling you that many Jews right now that are in Williamsburg or in other Jewish enclaves here in America who do not believe that a Jew should marry outside of the Jewish race. And I have to tell you even further that Jews biblically were racially, if you will, granted racism as a way of life. Their Jewish way of life was to be kept separate from the life of the heathens, of those of the nations of the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Girgashites, the Amalekites. All of those people around the Jews, the Jews were held up by God as exclusive, and they were not to intermingle with these foreign nations or these foreign people. My friends, that's a form of racism. It's biblical. It is accepted. But when you sit down with the brother in Tennessee and he talks about a pure race, or he talks about white folk not wanting to have anything to do and intermingling with black people, you have to understand he has a biblical foundation for that, and you got to give him a break to try to come to terms with him before you're ready to execute him. And there's one other thing, and I ask again, if this offends you, please don't hate me. Please forgive me. Say, we're just going to forgive you. We realize that you're saying what you're saying, but we're going to forgive you. Let me say something to you. The things I say about the Hamite man, the black man, with respect to the things that some Japheth or white people say or think about the Hamite or the black man, that, you know, a lot of people would say that they can't call me a racist because they know I'm a Hamite, I'm a black man. So they can't say I'm a racist, that I'm racist against my own people. They say I'm a hater. That's different. It's a different. See, if I was white, if a white person said the things I've said about black folk, they call them a racist. But they can't call me that. They call me a hater. I'm not a hater. I just tell black folk the truth. I do declare. I'm going to let you listen to a song. All I'm asking is to give truth a chance. I do declare. I'm not a hater. I'm a truth teller. I'm not a hater nor a racist. But when I tell black folk the truth, they call me a hater. And if a white man ever said the things I say, he'd be the biggest racist on planet Earth. But I tell him the truth because I love him. I tell black folk the truth because I love him. And when you look at the white man who looks at the black man, who looks at the ghetto, he looks at the baby's mama, baby's daddy, he looks at the ghetto routine, he looks at the survival on government, if you hand out, he's willing to take that. He looks at ravaging his own, the way he ravages his own neighborhood, kills his own people, robs his own grandmother, and he looks at the black man, and many of them look at the Chicago ghetto or the Harlem ghettos and say, these people live like animals. They don't live like civilized people. And I don't care if they they got a basketball player like LeBron James who runs up and down the court like a big damn horse shooting a basketball, that does not civilize these people. Now, again, please forgive me if you are offended by that, but I'm showing you a point of view that perhaps you haven't seen from your Hamite eyes. They're looking at the destruction, the filth, the garbage, the fact that you really aren't interested in building. Listen, I'm trying to build an arch of the Middle Passage. Now, one person's called me to ask me to help. They're looking at the fact that you don't build anything. You don't do anything. And you always are begging and blaming. And listen, this Japheth man, he may be poor and barefoot, but he doesn't want his poor and barefoot daughter going to school with your black rapping son. He doesn't want that to happen. You can call it racism if you want. You can say he's not for integration, but he's got a point of view. And if you let him take it to his nth degree in the Bible, he's got a biblical point of view that will stand up in court. But of course, the powers that be in the media labels him a racism, and he's damn tired of it. So Trump comes along and says, I'm going to lead y'all out of it. I'm going to defend you. I'm going to be a national spokesperson for all of your grievances of what Hollywood has done and what the civil rights marches have done and what black folk have done. I'm going to be your spokesperson. And that's why they fought. They said, well, we don't care if he's a con man. We don't care if he's a liar. The ends justifies the means. And that's why the 600 people walked away from me. Now, having said all of that, and all of that is true, all of that, I'm not a racist, I'm not. And I'm not a hater either. I'm not. But what you've done, the 600 that I'm offering you the opportunity, and I don't know, I mean, if you've done anything to try to hurt the ministry, burn down the church, and smear my name, then I don't want you to come back. But there's some of you out there who, you just got misled. You just walked the wrong walk at the wrong time. The door is open for you to be able to come back. One final thing, and this is a caveat that should have gone into the segment I did about Obama. I did a piece, the segment of teaching regarding Obama belonging to a CIA class, like you graduate from high school in 1994. All those classmates, you belong to that class of people, and they go out into the world, they do everything. Obama belonged to the CIA class of 1980, 81, 82, 83, and to the Afghanistan Mujahideen Russian invasion into Afghanistan. He belongs to that class. And it was that class of people that killed Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. And just as a caveat, Tupac Shakur's mother, she was born January the 10th. I was born February the 20th. She was born 30 days before me. And we were born in the same place, a little place in North Carolina called Robertson County. She was born in Lumberton. I was born in Red Springs. They're 18 miles apart. She didn't grow up in North Carolina the way I did, picking cotton. But the first few years of her life, the woman of Tupac, the mother of Tupac Shakur, we breathed the same air. And she returned to North Carolina many times during her early years after coming to New York, watching her mother and father grow up picking cotton. And I don't know if we ever met. I would never say that we did, but we breathed the same air. And she became a Black Panther, and I became a righteous man. She gave birth to Tupac Shakur, who later, in his later life, wanted to reform and become a righteous man, I believe. And the CIA killed him because he would have stopped billions of dollars going into Wall Street and the drug trade. I find it a coincidence that I was at Columbia University, as well as Obama alleged to have been there, and Tupac Shakur's stepfather, Matulu Shakur, and that our paths have crossed. I think it might be important for someone looking at this a little bit later, how close I've been to so many different things, validating who I am at present. I'm not a hater of the black man. I'm not a hater of the white man. I'm a truth teller for God. And that's what's going on in our nation. But Trump is perhaps the most despicable person you could ever find anywhere. And most despicable because the people who believe in him Trump would probably think more of somebody that's Hamite, that is black, than he would of somebody that is, Trump has not been accused in any meaningful way of assaulting black women, though he's had sex with hundreds of them. But it's something about the white woman that turns him off, makes him want to rape him, grab him, snatch him. And that's what he does. That's who he is. The door is open. I want you to know that you can come home if you so choose. I'm doing this because God said do it. I don't know if anybody will take me up on it or take God up on it. But you need to stop the insanity. Trump is a damn fool. He's a sick man. He's a sick dog. He is a sick dog that somehow or another God allowed him to go into the White House. And the destruction he's going to lead in his wake, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till January 6th. Wait until after that confirmation has taken place in the Senate, and Vice President Pence does whatever the hell he's going to do. You ain't seen nothing yet. This man is a madman. And Vladimir Putin does not want to have anything to do with them. Rupert Murdoch doesn't want to have anything to do with them. It's about time you cut your ties and came on back home with me. Come on home. And we can then stop the madness of Joe Biden and Camelback ain't Black Harris. You're going to need me. You're going to need me and my credibility to stop the madness that's coming down the road with Joe Biden and Camelback ain't Black Harris and Black Lives Matter and the squad. You're going to need me. Come on back. Let's reunite and pick up the war where we left off 5 years ago. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant.
I'm the Lord's servant.
I'm asking now is to give truth a chance. All I've ever told anybody is the truth. Now, just because you didn't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And I'm asking people to give truth a chance.
All around, you hear the lies being told from the top. Every time you turn around, it just don't seem to stop. When you're ready to move far beyond that same old dance, all you gotta do is listen, yeah, and give truth a chance.
When you're lying deep within in a bed full of lies, and your pillow soaking wet with the tears you have cried. If you're ready to unlock the chains and take a stand, you just open up your willing heart and give truth a chance.
Oh, give truth a chance to set you free and become the person the Lord has called you to be.
You've been walking for far too long, deeper in sin. Now it's time to open up and let the truth in. If you're ready to wake up from Satan's deep spell and trance, all you gotta do is let go and give truth a chance.
Oh, give truth a chance to set you free and become the person the Lord has called you to be. All around, you hear the lies being told from the top. Every time you turn around, it just don't seem to stop. When you're ready to move far beyond that same old dance, all you gotta do is listen, yeah, and give truth a chance.
Give truth a chance.
Everybody,
Give truth a chance.
come on and sing it.
Give truth a chance. Give truth a chance.
This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I am he. I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning. And I'm here to serve you with news and information.